Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video day, and today we're going to be previewing the Houston Rockets 2024-25 season as the Rockets get things underway tonight against Charlotte in Houston. Rockets will open up their first two games at Toyota Center, and it will be really fun to start off this season against Charlotte. Could the Rockets do something for 2 years in a row, and what would that be? Getting their first wins of the season against the Charlotte Hornets. Last season, the Rockets did start off 0-3, were able to, kind of turn their season around and end up finishing 41-41 despite the 0-3 start. But started off the season 0-3, losing. They lost their first game against the Magic. It was a blowout in Orlando. Then they lost in overtime to San Antonio. Then in their home opener, lost to Golden State. But in their fourth game this season, who did they play? It was the Charlotte Hornets, and they finally got their first win of the season. I do remember that game. Amen Thompson did get injured. Fred VanVleet had a big night. I want to say Sengun also had a big night for the Rockets, and the Rockets got their first win of the season. It was a high-scoring game for the Rockets as well. It was a great way for the Rockets to get their first win of the season. Let's all hope that the Rockets can get their first win of the season tonight. Now, what does the season look like this year? This is I think the owner said it as well, this is one of the deepest teams in basketball. I look at this Rockets bench and the talent that's off this bench, and I think the Rockets have one of the top benches in basketball. I look at some teams in the NBA that have some of the deepest benches in the league, and I see the Rockets right there at the top. I mean, I look at a team like Golden State who has a lot of depth. Sure, outside of Curry, there's not really a second star for Golden State, but there's a lot of depth on Golden State's roster. And that's what I see with this Rockets team as well. This is a Rockets team that has, obviously you have your starters with Fred and Jalen and Brooks and Sengun and Jabari Smith Jr., but outside of that, there's a lot of depth. You have Reed Shepherd, the third overall pick, who's a stud, looked really good in the preseason. You have Amen Thompson, who is a rookie, looked fantastic last year. Same thing goes for Cam Whitmore. You have Tari Eason, who was absolutely fantastic last year and did a great job rebounding, one of the best rebounders on the team. You have Steven Adams, who I think, even though Steven Adams hasn't played in a long time due to a shoulder injury, I still think Steven Adams is such a good center. He probably could start on 10 of the other 29 other teams as the starting center instead of being the backup center for the Rockets. Steven Adams is still that good of a center. He's the Rockets' backup center. What else do they have off the bench? It's not just a backup five rotation with five great players that I just mentioned. It's also guys who you're not going to get to see play that did a great job for the Rockets last year, like Aaron Holiday, who was one of the best three-point shooters on the team last year. He's not going to get a lot of minutes because of the deep rotation, and he averaged around like 7 or 8 points per game last year for the Rockets. Jeff Green almost averaged 10 points per game last year for the Rockets. Was really good rebounding, really good defense. I don't know how much he plays this year in the rotation due to the fact of how big of a rotation this Rockets team has. Jock Lando, final one. With Steven Adams and Alperen Sengun on this roster, I don't know how much he plays, and he was so key for the Rockets last year at the end of the year. I think he was averaging like 11 or 12 points per game at the end of the season last year, finished averaging like 7 or 8 on the year. So this is a deep rotation. I mean, all 13 guys that I just mentioned can all be legitimate players in this rotation. And then the 14th man in the rotation, who I did not mention, Jae'Sean Tate, was literally just starting at small forward for this team a couple years ago. He's not going to be playing either, and he's a nice defensive player. So I think the Rockets have one of the deepest teams in basketball. I look at teams like the Dallas Mavericks, and I look at teams like the Golden State Warriors. And there are some other teams in this league that I think have pretty deep rosters. I mean, I think Minnesota has I think has one of the best benches in the league with having Naz Reid and having Dante DiVincenzo and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Joe Ingles and the rookies like Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr. I think Minnesota's bench is really deep, and I look at teams like Minnesota and Golden State and Dallas, who not calling those three teams top teams in the West. I think Dallas should be a top team in the West. I don't really see Golden State being a top team in the West. I think Minnesota could be top 5, top 6 in the West. But looking at those teams, those are three of the teams I think have the best depth in the league. Not best rosters, just the best depth. And I think the Rockets are right there with those teams. So that's really nice for this Rockets team. I think they have one of the deepest teams in the league. And, going into this season, what do they need to do? They honestly, they just need to continue to do what they were doing last year, because you're now going to get Steven Adams back. Because keep in mind, Steven Adams did join the Rockets last year at the trade deadline, but he never played for the team. So he was not someone the Rockets had last year, a 41-41 team had last year. You get Tari Eason back, a guy who in his rookie season played 82 games. Last year, barely played at all. I think he only played like 20 games last year. But in those 20 games for the Rockets, he was very effective. You get him back healthy. And you draft Reed Sheppard, in the first, in the third overall pick, first round, and he's going to be a nice addition. So that helps this team get better. And then outside of the Reed Sheppard addition and the, getting healthy guys back like Tari Eason and Steven Adams, it's also all of the young players continuing to develop. We've seen Alperen Sengun take a jump each season of his career. I expect a jump for Sengun this year. Not a lot of people are talking about this player having a jump, but I expect Jabari Smith Jr. to take a jump this year. He's still 21 years old. I expect him to have a jump this year. I'm not going to say I think Jalen Green can have a jump, but I feel like Jalen Green's, I think we've already seen one of his biggest jumps, and it was how bad he was playing most of the time to start off last year's season and throughout the middle of the year, and then started to play great basketball at the end of the season. So he has more potential than what we saw at the end of the last year, but I feel like he's already taken a jump, a huge jump. And another guy I expect to get better for this team is Cam Whitmore. I think and Amen Thompson. I think those are two guys going into their second year are going to be way better than they were in their rookie seasons. So it's not just getting a Tari Eason and a Steven Adams healthy and adding in Reed Sheppard, but it's also knowing with how many young guys are on this team, there's going to be a couple of players on this young team that are better than they were last year. And I look at guys like Cam Whitmore, Jabari Smith Jr., and Amen Thompson and Alperen Sengun. I think those four guys are guys that takes big steps for this team this year, and that makes this team better. So I see some people calling this Rockets team a bottom 5 team in the Western Conference. That is not true. This team is not a bottom 5 team in the Western Conference. Last year's Rockets team was an amazing team, and they were just at the bottom 5 at 11. They were the last bottom 5 team last year. And you do everything I've said they've done, they're not going to be bottom 5 this year. I look at so many teams in the Western Conference that are not better than the Rockets. I'm just going to list, I have a list of 6 teams that the Rockets will be better than in the Western Conference this season. And those 6 teams, to me, I look at the Utah Jazz, I look at the Memphis Grizzlies, I look at the San Antonio Spurs, I look at the Golden State Warriors, and I look at the Los Angeles Clippers, and I don't see either one of those 6 teams being better than the Houston Rockets this season, which puts the Rockets right there at the 9 seed. I think the Rockets could have a better potential than the 9 seed this season. I think they're probably right. If the Rockets are the 9 seed, I think right after the Rockets are probably the Pelicans and the Pelicans and the Lakers. And I think the Rockets are at the Pelicans and Lakers level, but what I saw from the Lakers last night and the potential I think the Pelicans have this year, I don't really see the Rockets being better than those 2 teams. But for the Rockets this season to be able to take a jump from 11 seed to 9 seed and be at the play-in level and being able to, being able to have your young guys get some playoff experience or some play-in experience. I think that's great for this team. I don't see this Rockets team taking a huge win improvement jump this year. I mean, we already saw that last year. So we saw the 19 win improvement. We've seen that already. I think this year is just about the only jump I think this team's going to make is making the jump to play-in. I think we're going to see a little bit of a win improvement, but it's nothing. It's going to be nothing like it was last season. I see the Rockets getting around 45 to 47 wins this year, 41 last year. So that's in the area of a 4 to 6 win improvement. That's good, but it's not even close to what it was last year, which it's hard. It's very hard to beat that. I mean, if you're gonna beat that, you'd be a 60-win basketball team, which is I love my Rockets, but there is no chance in hell that the Rockets are gonna win the 60 games. So it's not good. That's that 19 win improvement's not gonna happen again. But I think their win improvement can be in the area of 4 to 6, which should be good enough for them to be a play-in team this year. And I think this is a year where the Rockets get into the play-in. I think they're the 9 or 8 seed. And we'll see how they would do in the play-in. I think that's where it gets hard for this team. But they'd have to figure it out. They'd have to figure that out at the 9 seed. You'd have to figure out trying to get into the playoffs, which is a great situation for such a young team to try to figure out. I'm going to make some final predictions. I have the Rockets having some award winners this year. It's been a long time since the Rockets have had some awards. I mean, the Rockets had James Harden win an MVP. They had Eric Gordon win a Sixth Man of the Year award. But I think the Rockets, for the first time in years, come home with some awards won. And I think Alperen Şengün wins the most improved player of the year. I don't think the Rockets have any MVP candidates. I love our guys, but I don't think they have any candidates for that. I love Ime Udoka as well. I just don't think he's a potential fit for head coach of the year. I thought he should have been in the mix last year, but I don't think he'll be in the mix this year. And I don't think unless Amen Thompson goes crazy right now, I don't think they'll have anyone in the Defensive Player of the Year, mentioned. But I think Şengün and Jalen Green will both be in the conversation for most improved player this year. I think the award goes to Şengün, but he does have to play 65 games. And my other prediction is that I believe Reed Sheppard wins Rookie of the Year. I know he has some competition. I think Dalton Knecht is some competition in LA. He's gonna have a great year with the Lakers, and also he has some competition with Bronny James. No, I'm just kidding. But also, I mean, potentially, just because I think he might be a starter, I think maybe there's also some competition with Atlanta Hawks Zachary Richey. I don't think so, though. I think even if Reed Sheppard's just the backup point guard, I think he has a better chance than Zachary Richey. I think he's going to do some great things for this Rockets team. I think the really only competition for Reed for this Rookie of the Year contest will be Dalton Knecht. I think it will be a tight race between those two, but I'm predicting that Reed will take that award home. Let me know your thoughts on my Rockets season preview and predictions. I'm so excited for this season. I think it's going to be a great year. I don't know if it'll be better than last year because it was so good to see the Rockets being a winning basketball team last year after years of losing. But it will be a better year if the Rockets can finish the season with either the play-in or the playoffs. Let me know your thoughts on my Rockets season preview and predictions in the comment section. And peace out. Go Rockets.